Welcome everyone to this ceremonial considerations, or really how to get the most out of this Venus initiation. Here with Tammy Brunk, I'm Kaylin Castell, and we're very excited to bring this information to you. You can go back and look at any time to help remind you of the things that will support you through this journey. So we're gonna look at the ceremonial tools for the Venus cycle, including doing a Venus journal, a Venus altar, working with visual sky magic, chakra gate activations, and there'll probably be some more things along the way. So, yeah. So we have guideposts for the journey. And shall we do them alternately, Tammy? Yeah. So how about, stay centered. Really, really important. And if you're not centered, that's okay too. But it's really about letting go of the need to do it all and to do it all perfectly. So if you find yourself feeling like you're behind and you're not keeping up with everything, it's okay. You can release any attachments to there's a certain way that you must do this, or a certain way that this is gonna, but also it does help to have a commitment to the process. Yes. Yeah, and to do what you can, and to take the actions that will help support you throughout the journey. But again, just letting go of the need to have to do it all.
Yeah, and I just want to speak a little bit more into that. That we always have some people in our courses, and we'll say this in almost every class. If you're behind, if you haven't done some of the chakra gates, we will say to some people, everyone's different. There are some who might just listen to the guided meditations and to the calls, and they just listen to that, and you can get a ton out of it that way. And if you are able to put more into it, you can get even more out of it, perhaps. But we've found that just showing up even in those ways is very, very powerful, and that you can always catch up on some of the chakra gates. And it's not very much, it's not always linear. Sometimes you might have a class that you miss, and then you go back even a few months later and you realize, wow, this is really the time for me to do that work. So
yes, yeah, beautiful. So you want to do the next one?
Oh, sure. Yes. You choose. Okay. So when considering what activities we want to engage, and you'll see there's a lot, we've kind of touched on what there is, the Venus altar and working with the night sky. And then we also have home play assignments, for example, that we'll share with you every time. And then, so because there's so much, it's very uncommon actually for people to do everything. But when you're trying to consider, okay, do I want to really focus in on these questions, for example, this month? Or do I want to really work on my Venus altar? Or does this home play assignment really speak to me? There's two ways to really feel into that. One is to say, wow, when I think about doing this, does it really make me feel fully alive? Like it's really exciting to me. It really turns me on. And alternatively, if there's something that I feel deeply resistant to, like, oh, that question, working with that question, journaling on that thing, that is really, like, I got a big charge around that. It's really scary to me. Well, that might be something to look at also. So, yeah.
Right. Those things that we resist, what are they about? So that's a good inquiry. And then sometimes it's really good to push ourselves to do the things we're feeling resistant towards. So, yeah.
And sometimes not. Sometimes you look at that more deeply and say, yeah, I'm just really not ready for that. Or that's just not for me. But just to really bring our awareness to that and really tune into what that's about for us.
So, and then it really, really helps to set intentions and for this journey. This is an initiatory journey. And so in any initiation journey that I have done, there's one of the things we have done is write intention statements. What do I want to get out of this? What am I hoping that this journey will bring to me? And especially because especially in certain parts of the journey, it's really about bringing up to the surface what our limiting beliefs are, our habits or patterns are that are blocking manifestation of our intentions. And when you set an intention, and especially when you write it and you make a formal declaration of that intention, everything in opposition to that intention will come up to get cleared. And that's a good thing, even though it doesn't always feel so great. So, but just to know that, and that has been something that's been really helpful for me. It's like, oh, look at all the stuff I have in the way of this.
And wow. And Kaylin, I mean, I just have to say that awareness, I think that might be one of the most powerful. It sounds so simple. It is so powerful to have that understanding and to carry that. If you just were to leave this journey with that awareness of what the manifestation process actually looks like and feels like, and if you were to bring that kind of visceral understanding into the other areas of your life, that in and of itself is such a huge empowerment tool. So, it sounds simple, but this is powerful, deep teachings. And I'm very grateful personally for the reminder. Again, this is one of those things, we'll almost say it in every class because it's that important. Because often we're like, okay, we might have this experience where we think, I want this, I want to manifest that. This author, Cindy Dale, she says manifestation and healing are the very same thing. And this is why, because when we're powerful enough to say, this is what we want, and then we allow what comes to the surface to come to the surface for healing, we're alchemists. This is when we're really working with alchemy.
Beautiful. I love that. And I just want to say I had an intention for 5 years to move to a new place. And I created a vision board and, big intention around it. A lot of stuff had to get out of the way for that to happen. And it just happened. And when it happened very fast, even though it felt like it took forever. Once it got going, it was like, oh God, this is happening so quick.
Yeah.
So just that reminder that sometimes it feels like it takes forever to really bring that manifestation online, but sometimes a lot of things have to be cleared out of the way. So not to give up on the vision, not to give up on the intention, to just remember. And we have a 19-month journey with Venus.
Yes.
So, that's a lot of time to work on these things and to allow these things to surface and come up and then get cleared or, transformed or integrated or whatever it is that needs to happen with them. So, yeah.
Yes. And also, again, just to know that, again, it doesn't have to be linear. This can be the kind of thing where you might still be working on the seventh, one of the chakras. Just because the month is over, we worked on the seventh chakra, that you may not have seventh chakra stuff come up, in 3 months from now. And so again, that's why it's good. You can go back and use the same tools.
Indeed.
That powerful, powerful way of looking at intentions. So we are in a collective field, and this is perhaps one of the things that I think has blown Kaylin and I away the most. And when we began this journey, just that the whole thing was so magical, and we'll share this story often, but of just, having, I think, 3 weeks to get the word out, having a live event just not happen. We weren't feeling the energy, so we made this happen, and having something like 100 people called in by the Circle of the Grandmothers is how this felt to us. And then from that point forward, to have all this energy that all these individuals, amazing, powerful, you will be so, you will fall in love with this circle, because the women and the men who are present are just of such high caliber and great heart and wisdom and life experience and just brilliance. And so we together are again enacting this powerful, ancient, in modern time reenactment of this Inanna descent story, which is such a fundamental archetypal story that has to do with the death rebirth process we go through individually, and we do this at a collective level aligned with natural cycles. It just can't be overstated how powerful and magical this is. So in this collective field, when we set our individual intentions, those intentions and the power of those intentions and what it is we can create and heal together are magnified and amplified, because we're all doing it together. And at the time of this recording, Jupiter is in Libra, it's such a powerful time to remember the power of the collective and the healing that happens when we learn to, again, be in circle with each other and to support one another in coming into our greatest dreams and visions. And that's what this big circle is doing.
Indeed. And I just will add to that, it's basically, you've kind of said it, but when we are in a collective field, when we are working together towards a certain initiation, initiation journey, and we're sharing that journey, it's increased exponentially by being in the circle. And so, if you're one person, you're one person, but if you're two people, it's like you're four people. If you're four people, it's like you're eight people. If you're eight people, it's like you're 16 people. So there's this exponential because we're all sharing this collective intention. We have our individual intentions, yes, but we also have this collective intention for empowering that feminine aspect that's within all of us, whether we're men or women. We all have a connection to that feminine power. And so how we are creating that through this journey, through this initiation, through the letting go and the reclaiming, the releasing and reclaiming part of it, so powerful. So we're just so excited to be able to do this with all of you and to continue and exponentially increasing the intention.
Yes. Thank you. And I just love that you bring in the reminder, this is what we're doing it for. We are bringing the divine feminine back into our world, back online through each one of us individually and through the collective. And what could be more vital than that at this time?
Indeed.
So we're so overjoyed and thrilled that you've joined us in this. So excited.
Yes, and so grateful too, because we need you to add to the exponential power.
Yes.
And so
with
thank
your
you.
own unique goddess archetype, with the divine feminine as she flows through only you, whether you are male or female. It's
Indeed.
you. You bring, each of us brings so much.
Indeed. Yes. Beautiful. So one of the tools that we have found to be extremely helpful is keeping a Venus journal. And there's many ways you can do this. We've just given a few options here that might be helpful to you in how you might want to do this, tracking your experience and your insights. I know this is what I did in 2010 to 2012 when I was going through a Venus return, and I was doing this by myself. And I kept a Venus journal, and Tammy and I have shared some of what we've done in our Venus journals from the past. I was so blown away by the insights that came through. And really, I was doing stream of consciousness, writing on the release and the reclaiming aspects of it. And we have questions for you that you can tune into to use in your journaling if you choose to do that. Again, this is something that can be extremely helpful, but it's not necessary. It's just an option for you to consider.
Yes.
And I think you might want to talk about dream tracking, because that also is a powerful way to use your Venus journal.
Totally. So we have individuals here in our circle who would say that their dreams are most deeply influenced by the cycles of Venus at this stage, that they see that their dream patterns are, this is what they've now come to tune into as being most influential. So absolutely, working with our dreams is going to deepen this experience profoundly. So if in your Venus journal, you are also tracking your dreams, and perhaps most importantly, tracking the dreams that feel like they connect with the themes that are emerging. Or you might even do something where you set the intention, if there's a question that's really thorny for you, to, if there's some issue that you're really struggling with that comes up over the course of this work, that you set the intention, and you might even petition the divine feminine. You might say, okay, Inanna. You might say Sekhmet. You may say, my own higher divine feminine self, I ask for your support tonight in this dreaming. Write that down, put it under your pillow, and then see what kinds of dreams, what kinds of feelings, what kinds of fragments emerge from that, and work with that in your Venus journal. And that will really deepen this inquiry for you. And we've found, and we'll talk more later about the Facebook group that we have, but that many women will share their dreams, and there's some powerful dreaming that happens in this circle. And there can be the idea that we are also working in other worlds and in other dimensions, and in some ways exponentially transmuting and healing and doing this work at just a whole other scale when we're working in the dream time. So we invite you to bring that into the circle and into the field as well.
Yes, beautiful. And then, of course, journaling near the Venus Moon conjunctions. And I will also say, when Venus is in the Anana underworld, that, you know, is something that we talk about in the video on the whole cycle, but she's there for, you know, 2.5 to 3 months. And some of my most profound journaling came from when Venus was with the sun. So
Yes.
Definitely working with
Yes.
the Venus Moon conjunctions, but also working with the underworld process of the cycle, seeing what comes up for you. What are you dying to? You know, what are you preparing to be reborn to? Those kinds of things can be really powerful as well.
Yes.
So those are just a few suggestions. Of course, you're not limited by these suggestions. We encourage you to come up with whatever works for you. And if you want to keep a Venus journal and we didn't mention anything here that inspires you, then you may want to find something that really works for you.
But it can be powerful. Yeah.
Yes.
So then we'll speak a little bit into the Venus altars generally, and then Kaylin, if you want to talk about this one particularly, and then I'll talk about mine. So the Venus altars are a really powerful way, and this is the one Kaylin will talk about as her personal way of doing it. But altars alter awareness, something that Kaylin taught me. I love this. And we have found that the women in our circle love, and the men, we haven't had men who've done altars, have we?
Or if they've done them, they haven't shared them with us.
They haven't shared them. So men in our circle, if you can share your altars. But the pictures, the first time we did this, I think it was like every time our hearts would open in a different way. Like, wow, look at these incredible altars these women are creating, dedicated to the divine feminine, and often connecting to the different chakra gates or connecting into the ways that each woman is feeling into this emergence of the divine feminine within. So we all do them differently, but to have a dedicated space where you are, you're physically working with these Venus mysteries, it really doubles, it triples, it amplifies the impact of this. It's something that you see every day that's like, oh yes, this is part of what I'm working with. So we highly, highly recommend altars, and they're fun, and you can share them, and it just adds a whole other level of magic to the cycle. So.
Absolutely. And, you know, the reason I came up with this idea was I had a client some years ago, as I was going into my age 56 Venus return, who was going into her Venus return at the same time. And I was just saying, work ceremonially. I never had anybody ask me how to do that. And I was doing a follow-up session with her. I said, so let me dream on that a little bit and I'll get back to you. And then I came up with this idea that she could find chakra stones that would represent each of the chakras, put them on an altar, and then remove each one as going through the descent, and then add each one back as you're going through the ascent. And I'm telling this to her and I'm thinking, oh my God, I need to do this. And so I looked around and I found I had this goddess Tara here, and I decided to create an altar. And this is actually a secondary altar. My first altar, well, actually, Tammy, I guess we'll have you talk about that, but I'll come back to that in a second. I just want to I just started with her as this goddess, and I needed to have a portable altar because I was traveling quite a bit at that time. So I put her in a basket. And then I created vestments. You know, it doesn't have to be chakra stones, but it can be, or it can be just like, here, this was her crown, this was her wand or her rod and staff, her lapis lazuli necklace, the heart chakra stone, the ring of power, the ankle bracelets, and the royal robe. So these were the vestments. And then I dressed her up with these vestments and put them in different parts of her and in the basket with her so that she could be portable. So I could just take her. So when I was gone during a Venus moon gate, I could still work with her. So that was why I created a portable altar. And then again, this is with her, with all of her vestments, including the royal robe. It's a red scarf, but it works. Anyway, and then taking them off as we go. Let's just see. And the other thing that I did was I chose cards from the goddess deck and from I can't think of her name, Vicki Noble's deck, tarot card deck. And then I would journal with those as well. So that was really helpful at each gate. So at each gate, what card I drew was like, that's some kind of information. And I got incredible insights from doing that. So that's something else that you can do. And so here I've removed her crown, and it's here. And I actually took it and put it in a box so that it was not visible and far away. And then okay, so we'll go back now to Tammy's altars and go and do that and how she did it. Because there's many ways to do this. There's no one right or wrong way to create your altar. Whatever speaks to you is what will be meaningful to you.
Yep. Yeah. So for me, the same year in 2010, the last Scorpio and final Scorpio cycle that Kaylin was going through her own personal Venus return, I was beginning the process of taking people through the Venus workshop. I had a group of us. There were like 7 of us, and we would meet every month early in the morning. And so I was kind of crafting this also at the same time with the group. I hadn't done it personally, but I was doing it with the group, which is very Aries of me. But in any case, so I was also exploring. I'd got all these different crystals that would correspond to the different chakra gates, and we would make collective altars that we built together. So over the course of that time, then I went through my personal cycle and I worked with it, very much influenced by what I'd learned by doing it with the group, and also by Kaylin's explorations, which were amazing. And then, so when we did our Capricorn journey together as a group, I was kind of drawing on what I'd done with my group personally, which is that I have a little heart stool, and it was built by my father, which I kind of love because I love that there's also the masculine connection. My dad actually is more feminine than my mother is in many ways, which is interesting. But then there would be a cloth. Sometimes there was a cloth that was the color. I would, like, every month when I had my group, I'd have a different cloth of a different color corresponding to the chakras, and of course the stones. And I would actually get a literal candle that was the chakra candle. And you'll see some of those different pieces here, and different herbs I would also put on the altar. So in this case, though, it's a circle of the grandmothers that are the presiding kind of feminine energetic, or the group that we work with for the Capricorn cycle. And so I had an image of the Council of the Indigenous 13 Grandmothers. I had an image of my own personal grandmother and a little owl that she had once had. I used lavender and how am I forgetting this purple stone?
Amethyst. Amethyst?
Amethyst, yes. So
yes,
for me, it was these different pieces that really compress the chakra gate and the archetype. And then my owl feather, my owl tail smudge that I always would use. And to me, the owl connected to the grandmother energy. So, that's, and then of course, you can see the difference. This is a circle of the grandmothers, very, very simple. And then by the time I get to the Leo altar, it's like full blown. Like, it's just like, I've got to put everything here. And I was so excited about all the different pieces, and just everything on my altar is just like exalting this Leo feminine. So have fun with it.
Yes. Beautiful. I love that we have such different examples. And then here are some examples from people in our earlier classes and the ways that they created their altars. So again, you can see there's no one way to do it. Here's an outdoor altar. And I think this was connected to the crown chakra because it looks like we have an amethyst here. And then, this is this person, Maureen, she does her own art as well. So she added some art of her art pieces in and on her altar. So there's just so many ways that you can do this.
Can we go back to it just for a second? Because I want to give another example of what you can do, which is just back one more.
Oh, sure.
That if you'll see the Leo altar, what I ended up loving doing was having each of the earlier candles that represented the earlier chakras still present, so they would go down. But I would build to have all the chakras by the end of the cycle. So you can also do that, encompass something from each, and just build it and make it bigger. This is actually on the ascent journey though. So in any case.
Right. So on the descent journey, you might have a candle for each chakra,
and then you
and
take
it off. Right.
Exactly. Yep.
And then when you're going back the other way, you would maybe relight them for each gate as you're ascending, and then have them all lit at the end, because representing. Yeah, I love that. It's a great way to do that. And here we've got all the chakra candles also that is on this particular altar. So there's so many ways that you can do it. It's all about your own creativity. And this is my Venus and Leo altar. I have a Sekhmet statue that I was able to put at the center of it. And I added, I have, this was actually Tammy, and I got this with Tammy when we were coming back from the Sekhmet temple. It's, can't think of the name of it right now, but it's a heart piece. It looks like a heart piece. So I used that. I took it off when we went through the heart gate. I have some pine cones, and these are snakes going up a tree, and all the vestments are here. So there's just, again, you probably won't do your altar the same way twice necessarily. It's constantly changing and evolving as we constantly change and evolve. And there's different symbols we want to bring and incorporate into the process. So is there anything more about altars you wanted to say before we move on?
I think that's perfect.
Okay, perfect. So now we really want to look at how it's important to do ceremony with morning and evening star. And sometimes the ceremony is simply witnessing what's happening in the sky. So if you get up in the morning and see Venus and the moon together in the morning sky, or you go out in the evening after sunset and see Venus and the moon together in the evening sky, that can be the ceremony. It doesn't have to be, some big production. Sometimes it's just being witness to what's happening in the sky, and being open to receive insights and, perhaps downloads that might be coming through around that. This picture actually is at the Sekhmet temple. This is Tammy, and this is me, and we were drumming up the sun early one morning, and Venus had been in the sky just right before the sun came up. So we were with a group of people, and it was just an amazing way to experience that. But you don't have to be somewhere special. If you can catch it from your window or your backyard or your front yard or wherever, you might be able to see that. Yeah.
But this kind of demonstrates how essential we feel it is to spend time with Venus in the morning or evening sky. Is that we did at the very beginning of the Leo cycle, we'd been inspired to work with Sekhmet, and I had connected with the priestess of this temple in Nevada, and Kaylin had wanted to go for many years, and so we decided to go specifically with the timing that we would see Venus as morning star when she had just begun her cycle. She was in the sign of Leo, and this is how, and that's pure magic. So even though, like Kaylin says, you can do it anywhere, and that's what's part of what's so fun. We'll have people take photos of seeing Venus and the moon at the different gates from all over the globe, sharing, well, I'm in Mexico and I saw it here, and I'm in, just all over. And that's one of the most beautiful things is we know when we look at Venus, well, we've got these Venus sisters and brothers who are doing it with us. But spending that time is really, really powerful personally and collectively, and life-changing.
Indeed. Yeah, because that's something that as ancient cultures and cultures more connected to the earth and the sky spent time hanging out with the sky, and particularly Venus and the moon. So here we have this, whenever you see the crescent moon in the shape of a kind of a C, that's a waning moon in the morning sky, and there's Venus right below. And sometimes the moon may be further off or further below, or, somewhere else, but there's, this is the idea that you get to check that out and take a picture of it. And then here, whenever the moon is in, like the backward C, that's the waxing moon, and here's Venus below. And sometimes you might see the moon below Venus. You might see the moon way over to the one side of Venus. And then I also just put in an image of Venus occulting I mean, the moon occulting Venus, meaning in a moment it's going to cross right over Venus, or it just crossed over Venus. I'm not sure where it is in this occultation process. But the moon passes right over Venus, and then Venus can disappear and reappear. And that's like a whole other activation. If we have any of those going on in the cycle that we're currently working with, we will definitely speak more into that as we experience that. But if you definitely having a chance to see Venus and the moon together in the morning sky and the evening sky, to me, it's like there's no words really to describe how expansive, how uplifting, how exciting, how, it's like, but none of that really kind of covers it fully, but it's just an amazing thing to have that experience. So we highly, highly recommend it.
And it begins to feel like the sky is speaking to you, and the Venus is speaking to you, and you might really feel distracted or restless some night, and then realize, oh, it's because I haven't gone out to see Venus. So it becomes something that's really a deeply ingrained part of your consciousness, that you're in this communication. And that's a deep understanding of shamanic astrology, that you want to have that living relationship with the sky and the planets. And Venus has a big presence and starts to have a huge presence in your awareness.
When I was in my Venus return in 2012, I was doing an event with Daniel. We were doing a shamanic astrology event at his house, and I was awakened at like 4:30 or 5 in the morning. And I went and I looked out his back window that faced east, and I saw the crescent moon coming up over the mountain. And then just a moment later, further to the right, I guess, from my perspective, further to the right of Venus, to the moon, was Venus coming up. So I got to see them both rise, and I was like, oh my God, Venus woke me up so that I could have this experience, and I could have this, it was such a wonder to see them both rising within moments of each other. So you can ask for that to happen. You can ask that, you are awoken at the right time, or you can even set an alarm to make sure you get up.
Yeah. Well,
right?
And when it's in the morning sky, you're probably going to need to do that.
Yeah.
and I definitely, and I used to, when I was living in the mountains during the morning star phase of the Leo cycle, I would often be awoken, and it's just like, okay, you really need to go out. And I would welcome her every morning with cornmeal and opening the directions. I would sing to her. I did this for about a week. And so much shifted for me personally, internally, and I just felt so much of the landscape around me also come alive. It felt like there was so much that came through. So it's powerful. So there's so many other ways you can work with the Venus cycle, and for some, one of our wonderful women they've gone through the first 2 cycles with us, Teresa Kelly, and she was working as well with this Venus initiation early on. She creates a lot of collages. We have a lot of people in our circle who do the soul collage work as well. So we recommend collages, and sometimes we'll recommend vision boards and speak to that specifically.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and then
also just the clearing and healing in each of the chakra gates, we will have individual videos for where we break these things down, but we do recommend that you do as much as possible. This is so fun, that you wear the colors that correspond to the chakra gate, that you consider what crystals you can work with, and maybe do a grid and just really focus in and work with one of those crystals. Maybe sometimes you can get jewelry to work with those things. To do certain exercises that correspond to the chakras. There's so much information we'll share. There's so much out there in general that you can do certain movements that correspond to the chakras, work with different herbs. There's chants that really help you activate, heal, clear, release. So what else, Kaylin?
Well, you mentioned that you sang to Venus, so I think singing is also, it's like you can just make it up. Or you might have a song you really especially love, or you can just, whatever's moving in you, sing.
Yeah.
sing to the planets, sing to Venus, sing to the moon, sing to the chakra, sing whatever you want to sing, or hum or something. But oftentimes, including making sounds can be really helpful as well. So yes, beautiful. So the other thing that we have been doing through this whole journey is offering the opportunity to work with a buddy, a Venus star buddy. And I like this. I think these actually might be two men, but but they're out under the sky together. They're being
That's so
buddies,
cute.
looking at Venus and the moon. So, you know, you might not be close to where your Venus star buddy is, but if you, you know, if you can always imagine that you're connecting through Venus and the moon. And one of the things I know in some ancient cultures is they would look at the moon, and if say they were far from their family or from their beloved or whatever that might be, they would say, okay, when the moon is full, you know, we'll communicate through that. So it is a way that we can communicate with others. We've forgotten how to do that, but working with being able to go out under the sky and know that when you are under the sky, you can connect with our entire Venus circle.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you have a buddy, you have somebody to talk to. You have somebody to process with. You have somebody to witness you and you to witness them. And it's a really amazing opportunity. And I know you'll have more to say about that, Tammy.
Yeah, absolutely. I've loved this so much. And what's really fun is that every time at the beginning of the cycle, what we'll do is I'll write down everybody's names on little pieces of purple paper often. And for a while I had a purple hat, and I have different magical things that I'll put the names in. And I kind of divide them up by region if people want that. But and then I'll just pull them out and match them, and it's part of a ceremony. And so it's really fun to see who ends up with who. And really amazing to see the kinds of, I mean, just the other night we had a call for the Grandmothers Council, and we had a really wonderful conversation where a woman was just saying, you know, I never would have met this woman otherwise. We probably would have never connected, but I so feel enriched by this relationship, and I've learned so much. So we really recommend, not everybody does it. Some people say very clearly, I want to do this on my own, and, you know, that's very powerful. But it can be really cool to also use that tool.
Yes. So just another option for you to consider. And, you know, if you talk once a month, that's great. Some people like to talk once a week. It just depends on, you know, what you decide to do.
Yeah.
So if you want a Venus buddy, be sure to let Tammy know.
Yeah. Actually, I'm gonna send out. I will in these courses, you will receive the opportunity to let us know in an email and probably a Google Doc most often, whether you want one or not.
Yeah.
And we'll work through the details.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So another thing that we do, and this we do actually in the calls, are guided journeys and visualizations. And there are audios that you can listen to get a sense of what the Venus temple is about. This is just an image that, you know, I think of would be like a magical Venus temple in the sky or somewhere in another dimension that we travel to and have ceremony there with the circle of grandmothers and different goddesses that show up to, you know, to have an experience with. And then we often also go to the sky temple and based on what's happening in the sky at that particular time, tune in and have a ceremony there as well.
Yeah, and for both of those places, and Kaylin has done a beautiful job of creating this Venus temple that at this stage we've had many of us who have visited this Venus temple and energized it, and so that it is a place that we gather. It is a place we have co-created together. And then I've created also a pretty beautiful, powerful sky temple that came through, and we visit that as well very regularly. So that's also a place where we can continue to gather. We've built the energy around it. It is a space that exists that we can connect with the sky in a really interesting, it's a really amazing way. So.
And the sky temple, you can access the sky temple from the Venus temple, but you can also go to each of them separately.
Yeah.
So be sure to listen to those audios that gives you an introduction to the Venus temple and the sky temple. before our first class, if you get a chance to do that, it's really awesome. Because it gives you a sense of what to expect. And then, of course, there are these added journeys or meditations that are designed each for each descent gate and each ascent gate, about 16 of them. I might need another one because we haven't had all the gates show up yet.
And these are powerful guided meditations that Kaylin does every month. And this is one of the things where we've had people say, we just listen to your class every month and we listen to these particular guided meditations, and it was amazing, and that was all I needed.
Right. So for those of you who feel like you don't have time for all the other stuff, that's sort of like the minimum that you could do. And they're just 15 to 20 minute guided meditations. Yeah. I think there might be one that's 22 minutes, but.
And then there's, just going back for a minute, I created a Meet Your Grandmother guide meditation as well, which is really pretty powerful because we really see the circle of the grandmothers as guiding this entire, really being behind the scenes and holding a really positive, supportive field for each of our Venus cycles, because what we see as the master cycle, the initiating cycle that begins all the rest, is the Capricorn Venus cycle. And so that the divine feminine connected with Capricorn is the circle of the grandmothers, or this feminine ancestral, even larger than ancestral energy that holds the field. So I created a special guided meditation that also we recommend listening to, so you've got a strong connection with your grandmother guide or grandmother guides. And I also do a guided meditation to connect in with each of your chakra gates to begin the journey. And as we go through, part of what we love to do in the context of the class itself, the call itself, is, to really create shorter,
build on, build on those particular initial journeys. And they're all on the class page. You can go and download and listen to them, or download them, or both, whatever works for you, to listen to at whatever time works for you. But again, we would recommend that it's really helpful to have listened to them prior to the first class. If you don't get to it prior to that, you can always catch it up later. And just know they're always there for you, because they'll stay on the class page the entire time.
Yes.
Yeah. So cool. So now we have.
We do play assignments or deepening exercises. Cute picture, Kaylin. And so with each of the gates, we have, we want to help you to be able to really go deep into the energy connected with the chakra. And with this stage of the journey, whether it's releasing or claiming. So we've had a lot of fun creating some pretty amazing exercises. And even though not everyone does them, the people who do them, I think, do get a lot out of this. And it's another thing that you can do with your Venus buddy. You can do it on your own. You can do it with your Venus buddy, or you can also share it with others in the group, in the Facebook group.
Yes. And we highly encourage people to share. In the Facebook group. That's been so powerful. So you can also, do personal or group ceremony. And this is, again, when we were at the Sekhmet temple. You can see Sekhmet over here. And we were watching the sunrise come up and doing ceremony, greeting Venus in the morning sky. So there's lots of different ways. And we also then greeted the sun. So again, just that idea that it's really cool to be able to do it, even if you're just doing it by yourself. But if you have others that you can do it with, that's also adds to the experience. At least that I find it does. And I know you do too, Tammy.
Yes, of course.
Right?
It's what first brought me into this. And I fell in love with it. Having 7 female friends, go out in the middle of Albuquerque, like in the city, like from a little yoga studio, and go and see Venus and the moon in the sky.
Right.
Like, it was fun to do it by myself, but to do it with others.
And we may do another journey back to the Sekhmet temple, but it was really amazing to have that experience and to work with these incredible women, to have this experience. And again, the idea that we do amplify our impact and our intentions when we are working with the collective, when we have more, we have 7 women here. And so it's 7 times 7, 49.
Yeah, totally. And that picture is so great. It just really counts.
Such a great picture. It was so much fun. So yeah. And then of course, as Tammy mentioned earlier, we do have Capricorn as the master cycle and the circle of grandmothers who are supporting us throughout the whole journey. So if you get a chance to listen to that guided meditation, you'll get a chance to meet either a grandmother guide or maybe a whole team of grandmothers that are working with you as we, we're here to empower the divine feminine in the wisest, most beneficial, supportive, and sustainable way possible. And so we are really grateful for the loving, wise counsel of the grandmothers who really brought us to do this work. They're the ones that inspired us to start these Venus cycles online. And
I would say too, what they speak to is that what our deeper inquiry and our deeper intention is to bring the divine feminine back into the collective, back into our worlds, to be a part of that reemergence. And we see that reemergence ultimately as being what initiates the new earth that we like to talk about. And this new earth, who is midwifing, or who is kind of supporting and bringing that new earth into being, but the circle of the grandmothers, as the feminine comes into balance with the masculine. So we call them in to support us in being aligned rightly, aligned in a positive, good way with the power of our collective intention, so that be what that it all be for helping create a culture that is really supportive and healthy and happy and abundant for the next 7 generations.
And we think about the Iroquois who honored the circle of grandmothers, and they made no decisions without their approval. And they told the United States, when they were saying, can we borrow your constitution because it's such a great constitution? And they said, yes, but do not leave out the circle of grandmothers or you will get into trouble.
Yes. Oh,
and so of course they left out the circle of grandmothers, and guess what? Things are kind of wonky weird. And so bringing the circle of grandmothers into our understanding, into our life, into our, to work with them energetically and so on is so helpful for us right now. We need to really reclaim their wisdom and what they have for us. And so that can mean connecting with literal grandmothers, or it's the etheric grandmothers that are there to guide us.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, awesome.
Awesome.
All right. So that completes this. We're really excited to share this journey with you, and we're re-energizing this divine feminine as we change the world one Venus cycle at a time.
Yes.
Yes. And so, doing ceremony, working with a Venus journal, having a Venus altar, showing up for the classes, engaging with the Facebook, having a Venus buddy.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about the Facebook. I'll just mention really quickly. We have a really vibrant community on Facebook. We were blown away by how active people are and what an amazing forum that actually is for sharing. And not everyone does it. Some of you may choose not to do that. You might email us occasionally or leave comments on the page, and that's totally awesome too. But if you can do it, if you can swing it, it's a really vibrant community. We have women and men who, when you're going through a hard time, when something big is happening in your life, you can really post and ask for support to the circle, as well as sharing your revelations and your growing love affair with Venus in the sky and your images of her from every different location. So yeah, Facebook, that group it's a powerful place.
You can also ask for support if you're needing extra support at any particular time.
Yeah.
So you're going to receive information about getting joined into the Facebook group, and you can choose to join or not, as Tammy was mentioning. And it is a secret group, so anything that you post there only is for our for our Venus community.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
So we're excited, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the classes that are to come.
Yes, we cannot
Yay.
wait. Yay. All right. We will see you.